everyone, and welcome to the Delhi Birth Network Community Resources Series. My name is Neha Mishra. I am a childbirth educator and a birth doula and a member of the Delhi Birth Network. And I am thrilled to have with me today Dr. Sachi Bhaveja. She is a wonderful person who I know personally, and that's why I wanted to have this conversation with her. She is a pediatrician. She is also an IBCLC, which means International Board Certified Lactation Consultant. She is an IYFC counselor. She has been working at BLK Hospital since 2010. She's also the president of ALPI, which is the Association of Lactation Professionals in India, and a member of BPNI and ILCA. ALPI is trying to improve breastfeeding support in India by providing lactation support for families and skill-based training for healthcare professionals. So that's briefly about Sachi. Thank you so much for joining us today. Would you like to say something before we begin?
Neha, thank you for having me on this platform. And Delhi Birth Network for me is like a very good community where when we go to the meetings, we feel as if we are part of community and all of us get to meet each other. And also it makes me feel heard. So I'm glad to be a part of it.
Thank you so much. Okay, so breastfeeding is a really vast topic. And I think that it's a topic which there is no end to how much you can learn and know about it. But we are going to try and keep this brief today and focus on one aspect. And so I was keen that we talk a little bit about what are the things that make breastfeeding hard? Because, you know, breastfeeding is not supposed to be hard. It's supposed to actually be enjoyable and easy for the mother and baby. And that's the design of nature. But the fact is that today we see so many families who face issues. So just want to investigate a little bit. What, according to you, are the reasons why it becomes difficult?
Breastfeeding, what you said is true. Breastfeeding is something that is supposed to be pleasurable and beneficial for everyone. But yes, at times it is hard. And we can simply classify it into three kinds of reasons. One is individual reasons, societal reasons, and institutional or healthcare provider related reasons. So most commonly when you are prepared, and when I say prepared, it does not mean just reading about the benefits of breastfeeding. It means prepared in terms of knowing the skills and also having a plan B. So I have prepared that the moment my baby will be born, I've read about it, I'll put my baby on the breast. But in case, heaven forbid, something different happens, so I should have a plan B so that I am not overwhelmed at that point of time. So being prepared and having a support system. So a support system can be your husband, can be your sister, can be your mom-in-law, anyone who's there, right?
If you think of all the women who have breastfed for centuries till now, they actually didn't have much information. But the fact that they were surrounded by other breastfeeding women,
yes,
and there were other women in the family who were constantly feeding, they saw it from the time they were really young, they learned it through observation, without actually learning anything. And that is what is missing with most of us today. We don't see anyone breastfeeding. No one is feeding in public. Even at home, people are feeding privately, and which is why they need to learn a little bit. Otherwise, you don't need to learn.
So that was learning by osmosis. You are seeing it happening and you are helping others do it. And also at that point of time, there was not much influence of other factors. So that was the time when breastfeeding was the norm. Correct. This is the time when bottle feeding and formula feeding and to my great discomfort, express breast milk in bottle, that is also. Not to say that's totally wrong, but still.
And which is why the need for, so being an educator myself, I don't like saying that without the education you can't do it, because the fact is that you can. But because of the kind of world that we live in, where we don't see many women feeding, we don't hear about breastfeeding much, that's why the need for that little bit of information and preparation, as you said, so that you know what to expect.
Right. So maternal or individual, and then comes the societal. Again, lots of families have so many concepts about breastfeeding. Day one, mother will not have milk, mother is having cesarean, mother will not have milk. Then we don't do anything, Bua will come, there'll be some ritual, and then we'll do. First feed is always given by mama. These are just examples, right? And also, the day baby is born, the biggest challenge that we face in our setup, in my setup, is that the day baby is born, there is a constant stream of visitors. So it's very difficult. See, ideally what we want the mother and baby to be skin to skin 24/7 till the time they have adjusted to baby's ex utero existence, right? And that is not happening. So many people, and that all disrupts. So this is what I meant by societal. And also once they go home, again, lots of interruptions, lots of unsolicited advices, lots of misconceptions. And third, and equally important, if not more, is organization or institution or healthcare system related. So as a pediatrician, I know we were never trained in skills about breastfeeding. All we had a 2-paragraph long thing about benefits of breastfeeding. So we know that breastfeeding is good, but we do not know what to do or how to help a mother if she's facing challenges. So day 1, day 2, when moms are facing challenges, the doctors, they feel helpless. But the sad part is they are not open enough to say, see, this is not my field. I don't know much about it, but maybe I have this person in my organization who can help you, because most of the organizations do not have skilled lactation support.
Right.
And by skilled lactation support, I don't mean only lactation consultants. It can be just 2-3 nurses who are trained in that art and skills and who are available round the clock. So again, it should not be morning hours, there is one nurse, and then evening, night hours, babies are getting formula.
In fact, this is what you're saying is exactly, as you're aware, I started the petition last year asking for baby-friendly hospitals initiative to be pushed in Delhi. And for this reason, because our system doesn't have that kind of a design to support mothers and babies to initiate breastfeeding. I mean, there is, so training is one part of it, protocols in the hospital. A lot of hospitals have a protocol where the baby is born and the baby is first taken aside for weighing and vaccinations and then all of that. And after the golden hour is over, then the baby comes back fully wrapped and the mother is told breastfeed. By then, all those instincts which the baby had, the instincts which the mother had, are all confused. And then the mother is struggling. She doesn't know how to latch. So those protocols make a difference. Formula is, unfortunately, despite all of the efforts that have been made over the last few years, the fact is that there are many hospitals where formula is being offered to babies.
We all are equal participants or partners in anything and everything. So if it is my baby which is being born, and most of the times I hear moms are very upset and sad about the lack of support that they got in hospital, I would say it is contributory. So if I have learned, if I have come equipped with my knowledge is power, Neha. To me, knowledge is power. And I absolutely love it when moms who come to me, they have Googled things and they have read, and then they come and question me and cross-question me. That shows that they want to do it because they feel they want to do it, not just because the breastfeeding is good. I know that it is good. I know that I want to do it. And I know that I'm capable of doing it. I'm just seeking your help. So it is a contributory thing. So it is not just the hospitals to be blamed. Equally, I think we need to be aware of our abilities, of our rights, and then we need to ask for those things. From this day, if everyone starts choosing those hospitals who have breastfeeding support, just imagine what will happen in next 1 year. All hospitals will have trained lactation support.
I agree. And as you said, I mean, I have worked with some mothers who, the moment the baby is born, and if someone is taking the baby away, she is like immediately shouting at them, don't you dare take my baby away from me. Is the baby well? So of course she wants to know that is everything okay. And the next question is, if the baby is well, you're not taking the baby away. So and actually the truth is that a lot of the power does lie with us and we don't realize that, but it's true for birth and true for breastfeeding. So the change has to begin from us. Do we as women value and understand what we want?
Right.
Do we want to push for the kind of care that we believe is good for us and our babies? And
Mm-hmm.
are we asking for it? Sometimes it's as simple as asking for it. Having said that, even the women who are aware, who have been able to get the kind of care that they want, some of them still end up with challenges with breastfeeding in the weeks ahead.
Right.
I'd like to talk a little bit about that. Like you said, there are societal, of course, factors as well. What does that do when there is pressure from the society, when there is, anxiety created in the household about feeding? How does that affect breastfeeding? How does it make it harder? And what does a mother do in that situation?
It's actually a very tricky situation because after delivery, you are for some time, most of us are staying with our extended families or at our maternal homes. And if all of you are not on the same page, it creates lots of confusion in terms of um, what other person's opinion is about bottle feeding, what kind of norms they had set for themselves. So many times things are absolutely right, and still because the grandmom feels or because the father feels that it is mandatory to add something, it is mandatory to add bottle, that causes problems. So their solutions can be simple if they are all willing to sit together and discuss this, but many times mother's voice is not heard. Again, we live in a society where at times it is difficult. So then I think talking to each other is one thing. And then if you can manage to go to a breastfeeding professional, it can be a lactation counselor, a lactation consultant, or maybe just talking to your pediatrician, because pediatricians are good advocates for breastfeeding. It is just that they are not skilled for practical support. So you can take their help and take your family into
I think
on the same
that's
page.
a great advice that works really well. जब मैंने कहा कि ऐसे करना है, कोई किसी ने नहीं माना, लेकिन डॉक्टर ने कहा तो बस that's
Oh,
then
Manlia.
मान लिया.
Right.
Yeah.
And if there are challenges, see, again, what I've seen is when the family is pressurizing mother to add something, there is mostly a reason behind it. So either they are seeing that the child is crying the whole day, or they are seeing that mother is struggling the whole day, or there is no weight gain, or there are some kind of challenges. So again, this concept in India that you should go for breastfeeding support is kind of looked down upon, and people say breastfeeding ka help kyun chahiye? Why do you need breastfeeding help? It is something that we have been doing since ages. But I feel if the mother is really keen and if she feels that thoda sa bhi challenges are, it's a good idea to go to a professional, seek help, or maybe just look up a little online, because online help is also available in terms of some good latch videos and all. But if she still feels it is not settling, it should not be delayed, because first 2 weeks are like foundation stones for breastfeeding outcomes in future. So go and seek help, and it's a good idea to take your family along, at least your primary caretaker at home, be it your husband, be it your mom, mom-in-law, sister, whosoever. So that also helps.
When these families come to you as a lactation consultant, what are the areas that you look into? Because as you said, and I know that there are many things that affect breastfeeding. And so what are all those various areas that you look into? And at what point is there a real physical challenge that the baby or the mother are facing?
Right. So when these families come to us, come to me particularly, so what I look for is actually if the concern is like if they are feeling that there is some challenge. So we do thorough history taking, and then I sit with the mother, she feeds in front of me, and we keep talking. So a general observation most of the times tells me that it is just a small issue in terms of maybe she just needs a little guidance about how to position more properly, how to latch more properly. But many a times what happens is mothers come with severe nipple injuries, mothers come with severe issues with the babies. So there we also look for any challenges that can be related to oral restrictions, Neha. This is something that internationally we hear that hardly 1 to 7% of the babies have oral challenges, but I don't see that in my practice. we recently collected data for the last 1 year, and we found that 23% of the babies had oral challenges. So when I say this, I do not only mean I don't only mean about tongue ties or lip ties. What I mean is due to the inability of the oral muscles and the tongue to function properly, baby is not able to feed well or is causing excessive damage to the maternal breast.
Right.
So there we work upon it. And the third category that we see is mostly the babies who did not get proper management in the initial days, who did not know how to go about it, and then they come after some weeks for assistance.
So what would be some of the main signs that a mother should look for when it tells her that she needs to see a specialist? So if she knows it's just, family issues and anxiety and all of that, she's able to cope on her own. But what are those 2-3 things which are clear signs that, you should go see someone to investigate a little deeper?
Okay. So before answering that, very quickly, 3-4 gross signs that all babies who are feeding well, they show is they feed, they get up, they feed, they relax, they go off to sleep, and they are comfortable. Number 1. Number 2, the mother is comfortable. She has no pain. Her nipples are not sore. So the initial days pain that we feel while breastfeeding, it just lasts for a few seconds when you have just put the baby on. And after that, it is not painful.
Yeah.
So mothers do not have any soreness or injuries. Babies are comfortable. Babies pass many stool outputs in a day. So a good way to remember it, the day of life equals to the number of stools in the first week. So day 1, minimum 1 to 2, day 2, 2 to 3, and it increases with each day. And by 1 week, they are passing 7-8 stools a day. So this, and babies lose weight initially, Neha. So if a baby has lost more than 8% of his birth weight, so suppose a baby was 3 kgs and the baby has lost more than 240 grams. So that means baby is not feeding well, right? So these are the signs which we tell mothers when they are going home to look for. That it should not hurt you, baby should get up and feed, and you should not feel any pain, baby should pass stools, and baby should come back to birth weight by day 40.
Yeah.
Now, just the reverse of it is something that a mother should keep an eye on in case she's having nipple pain, nipple injury, soreness, baby is feeding for long but is not getting satisfied, just gets exhausted, sleeps off, and the moment you try to remove from the breast, the baby gets up and wants to feed again. Baby is not passing stools. So only passing urine is not an indication that baby is fed properly, adequately in the first few weeks I'm talking about. And also the weight loss and then the following weight gain.
Okay.
So if there are these issues, these are red flag signs. Nipple injury is a red flag sign. Baby sleeping for hours, not getting to breastfeed is a red flag sign. Keeps on feeding without giving you a pause, does not go off to sleep but is irritable throughout the day, or a baby who's depressed throughout the day. These are the signs that we should keep an eye on in the initial days.
Okay, so my last question is specifically about oral restrictions. So if it has been diagnosed that a baby has a tongue tie or a lip tie or something that is reducing the function of the mouth, as you mentioned, what is the next steps? How is that? What is the plan of action after that? Who do they need to see? What are the various options available? Just briefly, if you can touch upon that.
Right. So ideally, there are 2 things which are important here. One is whosoever has diagnosed your tie needs to have a team for you to guide you to them, right? And second thing is optimal timing of release. That is something that is not very well known. It's although it's not a very new concept, but it's 2 years old. So what was seen internationally was if you diagnose a tie and you just cut it, things do not improve that much. But if you have worked as a team with that baby, see, whenever you have any restriction, your body compensates. So till the time it was discovered, your baby is compensating because of that. So when we work on such babies, when someone works on such babies, they need to keep into consideration both the baby and the mother. And when they work on the baby, they need to have a team of people like body workers, which include craniosacral therapists, then myofacial therapist, pediatric occupational therapist, lactation consultant, obviously, and sternotomy providers. So it sounds very daunting, but I tell you, if it is not my field, I'm just a LC. So I do not know how to do other things which need to be done for that baby. So having a team and working together gives us the best results.
Are these resources all available in Delhi?
In Delhi, yes, they are. We have craniosacral therapists, we have good sternotomy providers, we have pediatric occupational therapists. All it needs is for us to start forming teams and start working together, which is not very widely happening, but we are working towards it.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's because my understanding is, as of now, a mother she goes to a lactation counselor, she picks up something. She goes to a pediatric dentist, she picks up something. She goes to a pediatrician, she picks up something, and she has to stitch it together, which of course I think she's capable of, but it can be a little confusing.
It is very overwhelming because whenever moms are facing these challenges where they have where their babies have oral restrictions,
they're already going through a hard time, and then this time complicates it.
So I think as their lactation support people, or maybe their pediatrician, I don't know how many pediatricians know this much about this, but ideally their lactation support person or their sternotomy provider can guide them about, like, I know which people I work with, I know which people know the techniques, I know which people are breastfeeding friendly. So I can be the resource person for the mom that I am working with. And it's a good idea if we give them something to read up a little about, because if we don't provide with that and they just go and randomly check, it's very confusing.
Yeah. No, I can say that this is something that I personally experienced. So also the fact that correct me if I've got this right, not always does a tongue tie necessarily cause a problem, because my daughter has had a tongue tie. She breastfed for 2 years without a problem. She weaned off on her own after 2 years. But now I know that whatever the tongue tie did there was some oral restriction, and it's affecting the jaw formation. So I've discovered this from a pediatric dentist now, because there is a, teething jaw shape issues and stuff, and so we are probably going to be addressing that. So it's not so simplistic, and like you said, I think the body has a way of compensating, and so it's not just tongue tie hai, kaat do, breastfeeding theek ho jayega. It is far more.
So I will add here, you are right. So see, it is not कि tongue tie को काट दो, breastfeeding ठीक हो जाएगा. We need to have a holistic approach.
Yes.
So अगर tongue restricted है, feeding भले ही ठीक हो रहा है, it needs to be addressed, because otherwise jaw का development तो गड़बड़ होगा ना.
Exactly.
We'll have some compensatory effect because of that. So
that's exactly what happened in my daughter's case. She figured out feeding, but her jaw became narrow. She became a mouth breather. And then that causes other issues. So
exactly.
And I got one story from a ENT. I got one story from a dentist. And then I'm trying to put together all those bits. So
and it's very confusing. So what I mean to say is, whenever you are having a challenge, you should have a team who can just have a look at it, and then based on that they can make a plan of action. Say, okay, breastfeeding is going fine, but we are seeing this restriction, and just we need to do this. So kai baar there are muscle tensions, like my baby had cord around neck, for example, and when my baby was born, she had mild degree of torticollis. Torticollis is shortening, mild shortening because of strain or because of some other reasons. So my baby will have feeding issues. Now, by any chance, if my baby has a frenulum here, upper lip, so it can be falsely labeled as an upper lip tie, but actually the reason is that it's torticollis. So if I have a team and if that body worker works on that, this settles, my issues go, I do not need to do anything. The first principle is always do no harm. So that's what I meant.
That's wonderful. I think that this really gives a good perspective about what kind of challenges there are and the kind of resources that are available for us, and how you need to look at it very holistically. You have to look at, like you said, what is the motivation of the mother? How is she feeling? How much of her autonomy is she able to really own up to? What is the support that she has from her immediate family, from the larger sort of circle of society around her? Who are these resources available for her who she can reach out? And every breastfeeding problem is the responsibility of all of us, not just that mother and that baby.
It takes a village to raise a child. We have been hearing this since time immemorial, but I think it needs to be brought into action, Neha.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm sure this was
Thank you,
very,
Neha.
very valuable. And I know it's a topic that is very vast. So thanks for giving us just a brief idea of what it's about.
Thank you, Neha. Thanks for having me. Bye bye.
My pleasure.